Good morning, everyone. Frankie Sarinelli from Sarinelli and Associates. I'm here to talk to you today again about the PPP. So you have filed for the Paycheck Protection Program and you're starting to receive funding. The big question now is loan forgiveness. How do we get the debt forgiveness portion of it, and how do we maximize and utilize that amount? Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. If you're not sure what the PPP loan is, you should probably go back and watch one of my other videos on the PPP loan application and process. It has been a constantly evolving program from the beginning, and everybody that has filed for this knows that the rules in the beginning aren't the same rules that have followed all the way through. It has had many interpretations, and they have changed the process multiple times throughout. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch the PPP loan application. So this is for the people that are looking for what to do with the forgiveness amount. So to dive right into it, for the forgiveness amount, it's important to know that the first caveat of this is the 8-week coverage period. Okay, so you have an 8-week coverage period that you are allowed to apply for the forgiveness, and that 8-week coverage period starts not from the day that you sign your loan, but it actually starts on the day that you receive the first funding from the SBA. So the first day that the deposit gets deposited into your bank account is the day that your clock starts. Okay, so that's going to be the start of your 8-week period. We know that there's going to be some issues with this, like it probably falls in the middle of a pay period. It may fall in the middle of a pay period, and how they're going to handle that. The AICPA has tried to issue some guidance to the SBA, trying to have them maybe make it a little bit more flexible where you can start that clock on the beginning of the pay period, to make it easier for record keeping and record submission when we have to submit the records at the end of this. But as of right now, there has been no change on this. I'm giving you the best information that we have right now. These are the rules and the circumstances under the current PPP loan forgiveness program to date right now. Again, everybody that's applied for this PPP loan knows this is probably going to change. We are going to keep you up to date with the best information we can as we get it. But this is the best of what we have right now. These are the guidelines and rules set forth right now by the SBA and the federal government. Again, like the PPP loan, this may all change, and we may be watching another video to uncover that 8 weeks from now, when they actually start processing these loan forgivenesses. But so that 8-week period does start from the date that the first deposit was made into your account. There's a 75-25% rule. Okay, so what the 75-25% rule means that 75% of that loan that you received must be used to cover payroll costs. Okay, it must be used for directly for the payroll, the lost wages that you were paying employees. The additional 25% of that loan, okay, that can be used for some of your overhead costs that qualify for this forgiveness portion, which would be your rent, your utilities, or your mortgage interest, okay, on that 8-week period. It's important to know two things about the rent. So for the rental cost, you had to have a lease agreement in place before February 15th of 2020. Same thing with the utilities. You had to be in contract with the utility company before February 15th of 2020. So this is for, businesses that are actually impacted from the COVID-19 that were in business before this date, not new business startups, not new contracts. So self-rental is a little bit unclear right now. So we are unsure whether or not they are going to accept if you own the building, if you own it in a separate LLC, if you own it individually, and you're paying yourself rent. It's unclear whether or not that rent is going to qualify for the forgiveness portion. We do believe it is. as long as the lease agreement was in place before that February 15th date. But we're still looking for more guidance on that. So that's just something I wanted a lot of you to keep in mind about the rent. So it's probably important that you try to use up the other costs portion of it against that 25%, like your utilities, the health benefits, your any mortgage interest that you had before we get to the rent portion of it. So I just wanted to mention that for all you renters out there. There is a staffing requirement. Okay, so you must maintain the same number of employees on your payroll. So when you applied for the PPP loan, it was based on a calculation of your 2019 payroll. Okay, so however many people that you had in that calculation, you're going to have to maintain the same number of employees. So if you had 5 employees when you did the calculation, you have to maintain the same 5 number of employees when you're filing for the forgiveness portion. If you don't, they are going to reduce the forgivable amount. So just keep that in mind. To go along with that, you also must maintain at least 75% of your total payroll. Okay, so if you had people on and you maybe you laid some people off, or you reduced their wages because they weren't working as much, or you just couldn't afford to pay them under this COVID-19 and this pandemic that has been going on, affecting everybody in business, so you reduce their salary amount, you do have to maintain at least 75% of their salary. So if you did reduce their salary, you can bring their salary back up to their original amount, and you can still qualify for the full forgiveness amount. But make sure you do that in the beginning of this 8-week period. And if you haven't done so, I would say you need to do that immediately to make sure that you're covering that full that full portion of the payroll to receive the forgiveness on it. There is a rehiring grace period. So if you did lay anybody off, so if you had that five people that were on and now you're down to 3, okay, coming into your 8-week period that you're going to start, you can bring these people back and restore them to their full wages and still qualify for the loan forgiveness portion of this on the payroll. Okay. Another big thing of the portion of this PPP application process that had changed, that was not originally in the original PPP application process, was if you were a self-employed individual and you did not have any payroll, you could include up to $100,000 of your net earnings. If you were a Schedule C employee, it went off of your 2019 Schedule C. And you can include up to $100,000 of your net earnings to compensate yourself for any loss of revenue for this year. Now, the way that works was that $100,000 cap. Okay, so let's say if you did qualify for the $100,000, that you had over $100,000 of net earnings in 2019, you could use the $100,000, and it would work the same way you were using it to calculate your average monthly payroll. So it was the $100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5, and that was going to give you the same thing as we were doing for the actual salary calculation. Okay, so again, that didn't evolve into the loan till about 2 weeks after the initial PPP applications were being accepted. About 2 weeks later, they started accepting for self-employed individuals. If you were a partnership, it was the same calculation, up to $100,000 of your profit on your K1 income. So again, now you can use, as of right now, you can use that portion of that to qualify for the debt forgiveness. So it is also based on, your 8 weeks of that earnings, of whatever the calculation was that you used of your net earnings. Okay, so keep that in mind also. You should also, we're not quite sure what documentation they're going to be asking for to prove your net income for 2020 and what you had lost. So we are recommending that whatever that 8-week period amount would be, that you are issuing yourself draw checks from the company to cover that portion of the payroll. So it's just like if you were issuing yourself a payroll check, you're gonna issue a draw check for the total amount. So you want to take that 8-week period and divide that out over if it's either weekly or bi-weekly, as long as you're covering yourself with draw checks for that 8-week period. Okay, just a suggestion that we're doing because we don't know what documentation that they're going to be looking for when it comes to actually apply for this loan forgiveness. Okay, so what happens after the 8 weeks is you do have to go back to your SBA lender. So that would be your bank that you filed your application with. And what happens is you have to go through another application process to file for the forgiveness. We do know that they're going to be asking for documentation. So you are going to need your payroll records, proving your 8 weeks of payroll and salaries. Again, it may be those draw checks like I just talked about if you were self-employed. They also are going to be looking for, they may be looking for lease agreements, rent checks that you had cut. They may be looking for your utility bills. So it's going to be a conglomeration of a lot of things that are going into this, depending on what you actually use the funds for. Okay. After the submission period, they're required by law, your bank and the SBA are required by law to have a response to you within 60 days of what you qualify for the forgiveness. So it's important to note this, that any part of it that is not forgiven, okay, and they may be asking you for additional documentation, they may be asking you for additional amounts that you had paid so that they can kind of factor in more after that period. But any portion of it that does not qualify for this loan forgiveness is going to be converted into a loan from the SBA with a 2-year term period at a 1% interest rate. Okay, so that's what's going to happen to the remaining balance of this unforgiven loan portion. Okay, again, this is going to evolve, we are sure, many times, and we are going to keep you up to date as quickly as possible, and give you the best information that we can as it comes out to us. You can visit our website. It is www.serenellicpa.com. And I do have other videos there, and we do have a lot of calculations on there for you. We have a lot of this information in text writing so that you can kind of read through and follow. We hope it's been beneficial for you, and we hope that we're giving you the information and the tools that you need. You can always reach out to us at our office or by email by going to the website, to our staff page, and we'll be more than happy to help answer any questions. I hope you all are staying well and staying safe, and we hope to see you all as soon as this crisis ends. Thank you.